Fight fans, welcome back to Carl Perza MMA. Today, special guest for you, getting ready, fighting big PFL San Diego contest, June 27th. The co-main event against Viviane Araujo. She is Miss Liz Carmouche. Liz, how are you doing today? Good morning.
I'm good. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So last time we saw you back in action was last year. You fought over in Charlotte, won the PFL tournament. Looking back at it, what did you make of last year?
Yeah, I like the tournament fashion just in the sense that we know our schedule. You get the consistency of being able to fight multiple times in a year, but also just having a little bit more time at home and getting to actually see my family for a little bit and kind of help my wife with our son, see his sporting events, help with school, be with the animals was also a nice break, and really just made me yearn for wanting to be back in the cage and training and fighting again. So it's nice to be back. It's good to have a fight on the schedule.
Absolutely. You've been at the sport for a very long time. You understand the sacrifices that it takes to do this. Over the years, you've missed birthdays, weddings, Thanksgivings, dinners, all this type of stuff. What's made you continue and keep going?
I feel like this is who I am. I don't really know who I identify outside of being a fighter. I do love teaching, and that's probably the other thing that I have a passion for that I also enjoy doing. But there's always something new. There's always something new to learn. There's always new goals, new challenges to set for yourself to be able to achieve. And I like setting challenges and trying to meet them. So trying to win that tournament, get that belt, that was the goal. Now it's trying to get the 125 belt and then trying to convince them to make a 135 division in the PFL as well and to get the belt for that. So there's still markers to be met to keep reaching for.
Absolutely. You've been doing this for so many years. How do you think this sport has changed and evolved from when you first got into this?
I think it's changed a lot. When I first got into it, women couldn't make a living being a fighter, right? That was just kind of like your hobby that you did on the side that required a lot of attention, but that was it. Even if you were a professional, you couldn't pursue it full time. My first fight, I won and I made $100, I think $200 in the fight. So 100 show, 100 win bonus. And my fight medicals were more than that. So you couldn't make a living doing this. And even as I climbed up and, so many fights, I finally make it into the UFC, your fight medicals, your license, the cost of getting to and from, it wasn't covering the cost of fighting. My first few years, I was paying to fight. It was costing everything out of it. And really the most appealing prospect of fighting and the weight classes available didn't really express the different body types of women. And then we saw that change, right? We had our 135 division in the UFC. Then we added our 35, 15, 25, and we're starting to see that women are different body types. And in the beginning, when you saw a 145er, it usually meant that they're like the equivalent of a heavyweight. They gas out pretty early. They're not really showing the technical side of it, even though they have it. It's just not being expressed. And that's not the case now. You can see 145ers and 155ers that have amazing gas tanks and technically look great and are exciting fights to watch. And that's a huge change from when we started. And it's cool to see that evolution as we have more weight classes, more representation of women, and more women being the main events and main events of cards.
Absolutely. It's really cool when you look back at fighters' journeys and you look at early in their career and their topologies, you see some interesting matchups. For you, your fourth or fifth fight in, you fought Valentina Shevchenko. Obviously, you would go on to fight her multiple times in the UFC. But at that time, did you have a feeling that she would turn into what she is today?
No, but I also knew that she was not the person I was supposed to fight. I kind of got screwed over by that promotion. I went there fighting her sister, who we had a very similar record. While she still had experience in boxing, and I had no other combat experience, we at least MMA-wise, I think at that point we were both 3-0, right? So it was like, all right, cool. We're even in MMA. That's fair enough. And then I show up and I look at the fight poster. I'm like, I thought she stood differently, and she was a brunette, not blonde. I'm really confused. And my coach's like, no, that's the sister that we said no to because she's a world champion in Muay Thai. She has judo experience, boxing fights, MMA wise. She's a southpaw. You've never even worked with the southpaw. So it's not that we were opposed to it, but just different circumstances. I'm trying to enter in and get more used to fighting, and you have somebody that has this extensive record. So definitely going into it, that I knew at the very least there wasn't a lot of research and a lot of access to the internet to really know everything she accomplished, but we knew enough for accolades that she was somebody to watch out for. And as a newcomer, probably not the person that I was ready for. And then of course facing her, I'm like, all right, well, cool. If I can I'll just throw her, I'll take her down, I'll do some cage stuff and we'll do that. And then she countered stuff with me. I'm like, I think I was wrong. I don't know how I'm going to beat this girl. And then it was pretty apparent. I mean, she was controlling the fight, winning the fight up until I caught her with an up kick that cut her and wouldn't stop bleeding. And I think if it hadn't been up until that moment, she would have won the fight by decision without a doubt. So I definitely saw like, oh, she's exactly what she appears to be in being a force to be reckoned with. And then when she got signed to the UFC, I was like, all right, well, that's not a surprise. I'm sure she was doing really good about building up her record and ready for that moment.
You know, it's crazy to think only women in the UFC, 15 years now. Obviously, before that, you did battle in Invicta, Strikeforce. All of a sudden, 2011 came around. Ronda Rousey gets signed. You're her first opponent, one of the first two females to fight in the UFC. What was that moment like finding out that you're getting the opportunity to do that?
It was surreal, even though I wasn't telling people, of course, like a lot of people's dreams when you get into fighting is like, man, one day I want to get in the UFC. Like that's the biggest organization. That's where the best in the world are. And I want to compete against the best in the world. That's what I care about. So then when you get that phone call, I'm like, I think that they got the wrong person. I'm a nobody. Why in the world would I have this opportunity? And of course, without hesitation, yes, the answer is yes. I don't care who it is. This is the dream that I haven't been talking about that's been in the back of my mind that I'm hopeful for. And then it came into fruition and everything played out. And while I didn't get the win, I still had the opportunity that I never thought would happen.
Absolutely. You know, obviously the UFC, you had a great career outside the UFC. I mean, I really feel like you've been doing some of your best work. Obviously in Bellator, an amazing championship run, doing huge things in the PFL. Do you think we're at a time, a day and age where fighters can make a living, promotions that are maybe not called the UFC?
Yeah, I definitely think that if you're outside the UFC, you can absolutely make a living. If you market yourself well, especially when it comes to social media, like that's honestly some of the most important things for promoters is not even your record, but do you have a story? Do you have a social media following? And so if you have the energy to be able to do that and you have a storyline, you can make a living just off of that. And then you also get this chance to be able to do fighting. And outside of the UFC, you can have both. Whereas in the UFC, you're going to need to have a social media following. You get to fight sometimes, but you also need to have a real job because it's not going to do all of it. When really you can be outside the UFC and have a life where you are a professional athlete and all your time is committed to being that athlete.
You know, during your time in Bellator, 7-0, 4 title fights, 4 victories there. Obviously, recently it merged with the PFL. When you found out that Bellator was ending, was it a little maybe emotions there, just knowing of the great run you had?
Yeah, absolutely. Feeling like I had finally reached one of my dreams about being able to get a belt and achieving that, holding on to it, feeling like I was finding success, not knowing the inner workings and having not met the staff from the PFL. I didn't know how I'd be received. I'm like, okay, well, I'm the champion. And then you're looking and you're doing more research and you're like, oh, but they do tournaments. Oh, and every year it resets. I'm like, what does that mean for me? Having no clue where that put me in things. And then, just hoping that by achieving that Bellator belt in the 125, that I would be able to convince them like, hey, look, you guys had Alima and she just missed weight and she's been doing great. And that's your former champion. She's done so much for the organization. This is just further evidence. We should have a 135 division. Right. And then it's like, well, never mind. I'm not going to be able to voice that opinion. And then, not knowing where they're going to go with things, but also excited at the format and getting new opportunities, as much as having been with Strikeforce when the UFC bought them out, and then essentially for a little bit doing nothing with that, going to Invicta, then from Invicta to UFC. Now it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, I'm a little bit familiar with how this goes, so it's not as scary, where other fighters were freaking out. I'm like, we'll be okay. It'll work out one way or the other. If it doesn't work out with PFL, there are other organizations that are happy to be able to pick us up. And I know that most of those fighters have done so well that we don't have to worry. So for me, it was just exciting prospects and possibilities of what that new chapter of PFL would be.
You know, this year PFL a little different, going away from that tournament format. For you, do you like that?
Yeah, I think I like it a little bit more. Like I said, I was liking the tournament fashion, but even the first year's tournament format to the second year's tournament format was different, right? And you're having to learn new things all the time that kind of kept me on my toes. But I did like the frequency of fighting and knowing my schedule. That was a really settling idea to just be able to focus on being the best me and just focusing on an end goal and just trying to achieve that, as opposed to going back to that old fashioned of, I don't know when I'm going to get a phone call, when I'm going to have a fight again. And then just being able to, you're focusing on one opponent. You still have a goal of getting to a belt, but it's one opponent at a time instead of just an end goal with like markers along the way. So it definitely puts things differently. But like I said, it's nice to be able to have that time at home and be able to ease into this camp.
Absolutely. So you're getting ready, taking on Viviane Araujo over in San Diego, former UFC fighter as well. Overall, what do you think of her as an opponent?
I think it's an exciting one to bring to San Diego. I think that she's a banger. She likes to put on the pressure. She likes to come out aggressive. And that's always fun when you have an opponent you're not chasing down to engage with, but one you know is going to throw down and put on a good show that is worthy of a co-main or main event.
Absolutely. You mentioned San Diego. You get to fight in home territory. Is that always fun? Do you feel the crowd? Do you feed off of that energy?
Yes and no. Like there's definitely that feed off of that crowd when you know that it's family and friends there and support, and you can hear the cheering and you recognize those voices that are encouraging. But also like whenever I go back to California, I'm like, man, this is going to cost so much money. The fight medicals are so much more expensive. The license, what they take out in taxes, like, man, you come out of there and you're like, I didn't really make any money fighting. So that part's hard. But then also you go outside and you're like, oh, it's 72. It's beautiful. I have delicious food. I get to go to the beach. I get to see my family and friends. So there's definitely a mixed emotions going in there. But I love bringing it back to the San Diego crowd and just being able to always return to a place that I'm familiar with and that has been a second home for me.
You've been doing this for such a long time. Obviously, there's so many highs and lows of being a professional fighter. For you, how do you think you have grown and evolved from this journey?
I think I've grown a lot. I think one, in just respecting my body and being able to see the importance of the recovery. When I was starting off, I was young. I was fresh out of the Marine Corps. So I was stupid. I didn't know or value or appreciate what recovery was. It was zero priority. And I really feel like that resulted in a lot of injuries. And now understanding how to take care of my body best, I feel like has really contributed to success. Putting the time for the mental work to be able to strengthen it, having those connections with coaches that value my growth and allow me to step out and see different camps, different looks, and support that and encourage that has definitely made me look at it differently and hunger to be continuing to go on with this. When before I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'll keep doing this. It's whatever I can because I don't know what the future holds. This is something where I'm like, yeah, I want to keep doing this. And that's been a nice change over the years.
For you, what do you want your son to take away from this journey?
I really want my son just to find his passion and to pursue his passion. I think that's his biggest takeaway, is to not sacrifice just settling into something because it's safe, but to really find what your passion is and be willing to sacrifice to achieve it, to really do what you love and not just go to that 9-to-5 job where you're just punching a keyboard, which some people love, and there's nothing against that. But if that's not what he loves, find what it is and truly give it all he has.
A lot of people, I think, for the most part, understand what you guys are doing, but I don't think many people, unless you're involved in the fight game, understand the fight outside the fight. And to me, that's that fight not to clock in at 9 o'clock in the morning, clock out at 5 p.m. That's that fight to secure financial freedom. That's that fight to live life on your own terms, build a message, build a platform. Don't really listen to anyone else, but kind of live a life that you want to. For you, has this been a big part of the journey?
Yeah, that's been a big part of the journey is living my life, is being able to embrace who I am and fully live that. It's being able to give back to people. It's awesome when I can teach other people, when I can travel and be able to share the knowledge I have and see a connection and speak to a language that it's so crazy because you can be in the gym and your coach has taught you the exact same thing that I'm teaching you, but maybe just the verbiage that your coach uses doesn't resonate with you and it doesn't quite click. And then I come in and I find the language for you that works and I can translate it so you can get it. I love seeing that moment, that light bulb moment of being able to help somebody in that way, or having the financial security where if somebody has a question and they ask me, I can take the time to be like, yeah, I'll show you that. It's not going to burden me. Whereas in the past, I'm like, I have to do a personal training session. I can't afford to take this 30 minutes to help you. Like, I can take an hour. It's just time out of my day. And if it gets to help you. And to me, that martial artist of being humble, being able to give back is who I recognize. And I think it's important for me to embody. And I have a chance to do that now. And I love being able to be in that space and being able to go home and be with my family, being able to watch my son when I'm not working a normal job. So I'm like, yeah, you want to go learn how to swim in the middle of the day? It's noon. Let's go to the pool. You're homeschooled. We can try these things. Like we're going to go on an East Coast adventure and do like history stops for a road trip after my fight. And in a normal setting, I took off for my fight. I can't take off to go do that too, but I can. And I love that I have the position to be able to do that, to be able to reconnect with my son, take a week to just have a cool trip with me and him. And that's what this has allowed me to do on this journey.
Do you think fighting is more mental and physical?
Absolutely. It's definitely mental, because there have been times where I'm destroying everybody in the gym, but I just gave too much credit to my opponent and I'm beating myself up and I'm questioning everything I do. And I feel like I'm not a great fighter. My coach's like, you destroyed everybody. Because we have like a rule, like if you get mounted and like you're hitting somebody, if they're not doing anything and it's 20 punches, 20 elbows or whatever, that's a TKO, right? In a fight, it'd be stopped. So you don't just keep there bashing them like, you'll get out of it. And these are your training partners, right? So it's like you TKO'd this person, you dropped this person standing, you submitted this person, every single person you finished. Why are you beating yourself up? I'm like, man, because I made this mistake. I did this. And, I'm definitely my biggest critic. And that comes down to mental. It's not the physical. Physical, I do everything right physically, with recovery, with strength and conditioning, with nutrition, with sleep, with all of it. I do everything right physically. And I know going in, if I'm healthy in a fight, it's just the mental and just having any doubts and listening to those doubts. And that's ultimately what can change the development of the fight. So it really is for me. And I think throughout my career, it's just the mental game.
Over your career, you've won multiple titles. You fought at pretty much every North American promotion. You fought literally some of the greatest women to ever compete in this sport. You're probably at a time right now, you could be doing other things if you want to, but instead you're still fighting. You're fighting at a very, very high level. For you, how much do you love this stuff?
I love it. I mean, it's like I said, it's so much fun to go in there and to go into the gym and work on something and try something new. Like I go in there and I love that I can be in a space where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try this crazy move that I've been thinking up. Like I was going to bed last night thinking about it. I'm going to try it and failing at it. And both me and my training partner just laughing. I'm like, I had to try. Like what other places? Like if I went to a normal job and I'm like, you know what? I had this crazy idea last night. I'm going to try it. And then like say everybody's computer, the whole network crashes and you're like, oh, I am in so much trouble. Like the worst that happens is I make a mistake and I hurt myself, right? There's how many other jobs can you make a big mistake and just laugh it off with your coworker and that's okay? And essentially like my coach is my boss and we're all laughing it off like that was really dumb, but cool, let's try something different. There's not many places you can do that. So I love that this is a place where I can make mistakes and try new things and experiment, and that's encouraged and it's okay to do that.
Absolutely. All right, Liz, last question for you. In a perfect world, what is the outcome June 27th when you return to that PFL Smart Cage against Viviane Araujo?
In a perfect world, it is a knockout. I want a clean knockout. I don't have that yet on my record. We have TKOs, we have submissions, we have decision wins. I want a clean knockout. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's her or somebody else, but that is the ultimate perfect night, my hand raised, having her asleep on the canvas.
Absolutely. Well, Liz, thank you so much for chatting with me. Can't wait to watch your fight and wishing nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That's it for us, damn Carl Peruzza. She's Miss Liz Carmouche. You can watch her June 27th, San Diego, fighting Viviane Araujo. Don't blink, fans. She's going for the KO. Take care.